I'm going to keep this straightforward because I know a lot of you are sitting on the fence, wondering if the newest iPad Air with the M4 chip is really worth the price tag when you're looking for a device that can double as a solid camera. You've probably heard the hype about Apple's Liquid Retina and the new Wi-Fi 7, but the real question is whether the camera side of the iPad will hold up in the kinds of everyday moments you actually care about, like capturing a kid's birthday cake in a dim restaurant, video calling with a friend on the other side of the country, or scanning a document on the go. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. Let's walk through what matters after you unbox, so you can decide if this is the right fit for you or if you'd be better off looking elsewhere. First off, the iPad Air's camera system is built around a 12-megapixel wide-angle lens on both the front and back, which is a step up from the 10-megapixel sensors you see on many budget tablets. The real test of a camera isn't the pixel count, though, it's how confidently it focuses and how much detail it can pull out in tricky lighting. In my day-to-day testing, the autofocus was surprisingly snappy for a tablet. When I opened a notebook to photograph a handwritten recipe, the lens locked onto the text within a second, and the result was legible enough that I could run it through the iPad's built-in OCR without any extra sharpening. That kind of reliability matters when you're using the iPad as a quick scanner rather than a dedicated DSLR. Low-light performance is where many tablets stumble, but the M4-powered iPad Air managed to hold its own in a moderately dark coffee shop. The sensor's larger pixels and Apple's computational photography pipeline combined to keep noise under control, and the images retained enough detail to recognize faces and text. If you're someone who frequently snaps pictures after the sun goes down, say, capturing a city skyline on a balcony or documenting a concert, the iPad Air will give you decent results, though you'll still notice a softening compared to a phone with a dedicated night mode. It's not a deal breaker, but it's good to know you won't get the same level of clarity you'd expect from a flagship smartphone. Stabilization is another practical concern. The iPad Air uses sensor shift optical image stabilization, OIS, on the rear camera, which is a nice surprise for a tablet. When I recorded a short vlog while walking through a museum, the footage stayed steady enough that I didn't need to reach for a gimbal. The front-facing 12-megapixel camera also benefits from OIS, which makes FaceTime calls feel less jittery if you're holding the iPad in one hand. That said, the stabilization isn't as aggressive as what you'd find on Apple's Pro models, so for very dynamic action like sports or fast-moving kids you might still see a bit of wobble. One limitation that can't be ignored is the lack of an interchangeable lens ecosystem. Unlike a mirrorless camera where you can swap a macro or telephoto lens, the iPad Air is locked to its built-in optics. If you're a hobbyist who loves experimenting with shallow depth of field or extreme close-ups, you'll quickly feel that constraint. However, for most creators who need a versatile good enough solution, students taking notes, professionals capturing quick screenshots of whiteboards, or small business owners shooting product photos for social media, the 12-megapixel wide lens covers a broad range of scenarios without the need for extra gear. Menu friction is surprisingly low thanks to iPadOS. The native camera app is stripped down to the essentials: a shutter button, mode selector, photo, video, portrait, scan, and a tiny toggle for flash. There are no nested settings menus that force you to dig through layers before you can actually shoot. If you need more control, third-party apps like Halide integrate smoothly and expose manual focus, ISO, and shutter speed. The key point is that the default experience feels immediate. Open the app, point, and shoot, while power users still have a path to granular adjustments without leaving the iPad environment. Battery confidence is an area where the iPad Air shines. Apple advertises an all-day battery, and in a typical mixed-use day, emails, web browsing, a few video calls, and about 30 minutes of camera work, I barely dipped below 30% by bedtime. The camera in itself isn't a big drain. The larger power hog is the M4's graphics engine when you start editing 4K video. If you plan to use the iPad for extended shoots, it's worth having a charger handy, but for most people the battery life will comfortably outlast a full day of normal tablet tasks plus a decent amount of photo and video work. So, who should buy this iPad Air? If you're a student or professional who already uses iPadOS for note-taking, design, or light video editing, the added camera capabilities give you a single device that can replace a separate scanner and a basic phone camera. The